Clara clutched the worn fabric of her dress, the lace a stark contrast to the worry etched on her young face. Her wedding day was fast approaching, a day that should have been filled with uncontainable joy. But instead, a heavy cloud of despair hung over her. It wasn't that she didn't care for Thomas, the man she was to marry. He was a kind and hard-working man, but their life together felt more like a duty than a dream. The real source of her unhappiness was her family's misfortune. A series of unfortunate events had led to the loss of their beloved farm, the only home Clara had ever known. She felt an immense weight of responsibility. If only she had been cleverer, stronger, perhaps she could have prevented their downfall. The thought gnawed at her constantly, stealing her sleep and dimming her spirit. How could she possibly begin a new life, a marriage, knowing that her family was struggling? The once vibrant fields of their farm were now barren, the animals sold off to pay mounting debts. Her parents, once full of laughter and energy, now carried the weight of their troubles on their shoulders. Clara's heart ached for them, and she desperately wished she could ease their burden. The upcoming wedding felt like a selfish indulgence when her family was facing such hardship. Could she truly be happy when they were so clearly not? The joy of starting a new chapter felt tainted by the despair surrounding her family's plight. Across the rolling hills, where the sun kissed the golden fields, lay the sprawling Bar Diamond Ranch, owned by Jedediah Harding. Jedediah was a man respected throughout the county, not just for his successful ranching but for his unwavering kindness and generosity. He had a warm smile that could melt the coldest heart and a reputation for helping those in need. He had heard whispers of the misfortune that had befallen Clara's family. He'd seen her at the market, her usual bright eyes clouded with worry, her laughter replaced by a quiet sadness. He knew her family had always been proud and self-sufficient, and it pained him to see them struggling. Jedediah was a keen observer of people. He noticed the way Clara's shoulders slumped a little more each day, the way she tried to hide her distress behind a forced smile. He admired her strength, her determination to carry on despite the heavy burden she carried. He often wondered if there was something he could do to ease her suffering, to bring back the sparkle he had once seen in her eyes. He felt a growing concern for her well-being and a strong desire to offer her a helping hand, though he wasn't quite sure how. He knew that simply offering money would likely be refused, given the family's pride. He would have to find a more subtle, more respectful way to assist. The morning of Clara's wedding dawned bright, a deceptive calm before the storm. Excitement fluttered through the small town as friends and family gathered to celebrate. Clara tried to muster a smile as she helped with the final preparations, but her heart remained heavy. The wedding was to be held in a small clearing near the old family farm, a place that held many cherished memories. Her mother had painstakingly decorated the area with wildflowers and ribbons, trying to create a festive atmosphere despite their circumstances. But as the afternoon wore on, the sky began to darken ominously. A low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, and a strong wind began to whip through the trees. The cheerful decorations were tossed about like toys, and the carefully arranged tables threatened to collapse. Panic started to set in as the first drops of rain began to fall, fat and heavy. Within minutes, the storm unleashed its full fury. Torrential rain poured down, turning the clearing into a muddy swamp. The wind howled, tearing down the decorations and scattering them across the fields. Guests huddled together, seeking shelter under trees or in their carriages, their faces etched with disappointment. Clara watched in dismay as her wedding day, already burdened with sadness, was now being ruined by the relentless storm. It felt like another blow, another symbol of the misfortune that had befallen her family. Just as despair threatened to engulf Clara completely, a figure emerged from the downpour. It was Jedediah, his face determined, his coat soaked through. He approached Clara, his eyes filled with concern. "Clara," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos around them, "this isn't how your wedding day should be. The storm may have ruined the clearing, but it doesn't have to ruin your celebration." He paused, then continued, "The Bar Diamond Ranch has a large barn, freshly cleaned and decorated for a harvest festival that was just cancelled. It's dry, safe, and big enough for everyone. I would be honored if you would consider moving your wedding there. Clara stared at him, stunned. She couldn't believe Jedediah would offer such a generous solution in their time of need. Her mother, overhearing the conversation, rushed forward, her eyes brimming with tears. "Mr. Harding," she exclaimed, "that is incredibly kind of you. We couldn't possibly impose." Jedediah smiled reassuringly. "It's no imposition at all, ma'am. It would be my pleasure to help. Consider it a gift from a neighbor." He turned to the other guests and announced his offer, his voice booming over the storm. A wave of relief washed over the crowd as they eagerly accepted his invitation. Within minutes, the wedding party was packing up what they could salvage and heading towards the Bar Diamond Ranch, leaving the ruined clearing behind. A glimmer of hope had been rekindled amidst the storm. The Bar Diamond Ranch barn was a sight to behold. It wasn't just a simple barn, it was a grand space, meticulously cleaned and adorned with twinkling lights, colorful ribbons, and fragrant flowers left over from the cancelled harvest festival. The air buzzed with a renewed sense of excitement as the wedding party arrived, shaking off the rain and mud. Clara gasped as she stepped inside. The transformation was incredible. The barn felt warm and inviting, a haven from the storm raging outside. Her mother embraced her, tears streaming down her face, this time tears of relief and gratitude. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, the sound of the rain drumming on the roof only adding to the cozy atmosphere. Clara, dressed in her slightly damp but still beautiful wedding gown, walked down the makeshift aisle, her heart filled with a mixture of emotions. She was still worried about her family's future, but Jedediah's kindness had lifted a great weight from her shoulders. As she exchanged vows with Thomas, she couldn't help but glance over at Jedediah, who stood respectfully at the back of the barn. His warm smile radiated genuine happiness for her, and she felt a surge of gratitude towards him. The wedding, against all odds, was a success. The food was delicious, the music lively, and the atmosphere filled with love and laughter. For one day, at least, the shadow of despair had lifted, replaced by the warmth of friendship and the joy of celebration. The wedding was saved, and Clara and her family were deeply grateful. The days following the wedding brought a return to reality. While the celebration had been a welcome respite, Clara knew that her family's troubles were far from over. She and Thomas settled into their small cottage, but Clara's mind was often elsewhere, worrying about her parents and their uncertain future. One afternoon, Jedediah paid a visit to Clara's parents. He sat with them on their porch, the fields that were once their livelihood stretching out before them, now barren and desolate. He spoke to them with respect and compassion, acknowledging their hardship and offering a solution. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller," he began, "I know that losing your farm has been incredibly difficult. I admire your resilience, but I also know that you need help." He paused, then continued, "I have a position open on my ranch. I need someone reliable and hardworking to help manage the livestock. I was hoping that Mr. Miller might consider the job." Clara's father was taken aback. He had spent his entire life farming, not ranching. But he saw the sincerity in Jedediah's eyes and the genuine desire to help. "Mr. Harding," he replied, "I'm grateful for the offer. I don't know much about ranching, but I'm willing to learn." Jedediah smiled. "That's all I ask. The work is honest, and the pay is fair. It would be a weight off my shoulders, and hopefully, a weight off yours as well." Clara's parents gratefully accepted the offer, a glimmer of hope returning to their eyes. They were overjoyed at Jedediah's kindness. With her father now working at the Bar Diamond Ranch, Clara found herself spending more time there as well. She would often bring her father lunch or help him with small tasks after finishing her chores at home. She started by assisting with simple things like feeding the chickens or tending to the vegetable garden near the ranch house. Jedediah welcomed her presence, appreciating her willingness to lend a hand. He noticed her natural aptitude for working with animals and her keen eye for detail. He started teaching her about ranch life, showing her how to care for the horses, how to mend fences, and how to identify different types of grasses. Clara surprised herself by how much she enjoyed it. She had always loved the outdoors, but she had never considered a life beyond farming. The ranch was different from her family's farm, but it had a similar connection to the land, a sense of purpose and hard work that she found deeply satisfying. She found joy in the rhythm of ranch life, the early mornings, the fresh air, and the sense of accomplishment that came from a day's work. She learned new skills and discovered hidden strengths she never knew she possessed. Each day at the ranch brought a renewed sense of purpose and a welcome distraction from the worries that still lingered in the back of her mind. She felt useful and appreciated, a feeling that had been missing since her family lost their farm. As Clara and Jedediah worked side by side, a deep friendship blossomed between them. Jedediah admired Clara's resilience, her quick wit, and her unwavering dedication to her family. He saw her as more than just a neighbor, he recognized her inner strength and her kind heart. He enjoyed their conversations, her insightful questions, and her genuine interest in learning about ranching. Clara, in turn, saw beyond Jedediah's successful rancher persona. She saw his humility, his generosity, and his deep love for the land. She appreciated his patience in teaching her new skills and his genuine concern for her well-being. She found herself drawn to his warm smile and his calming presence. He treated her with respect and kindness, something she deeply valued. They spent hours discussing everything from the weather to the challenges of ranching to their hopes and dreams for the future. They laughed together, they shared stories, and they supported each other through difficult times. Their connection deepened with each passing day, growing into a bond of mutual respect and affection. Clara found herself looking forward to her time at the ranch, not just for the work, but for the opportunity to spend time with Jedediah. She valued his advice, his friendship, and his unwavering support. He was becoming someone she could truly rely on, someone who understood her struggles and appreciated her strengths. The summer that followed brought a harsh drought to the region. The once lush green pastures of the Bar Diamond Ranch began to turn brown and dry, and the river that supplied water to the ranch dwindled to a mere trickle. Jedediah watched with growing concern as his crops withered and his livestock struggled to find sustenance. He tried everything he could think of, but nothing seemed to work. The drought persisted, and the future of the ranch looked bleak. He worried about his family, his employees, and the entire community that depended on the ranch's success. He felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Clara, witnessing Jedediah's despair, remembered a technique her grandfather had used during dry spells on their farm. He had taught her about deep plowing and water conservation methods that could help the soil retain moisture. Although she had never used these techniques on a large scale, she believed they could make a difference. Hesitantly, she approached Jedediah with her idea. "Jedediah," she said, "I know it might sound crazy, but I have an idea that might help. My grandfather used to." She explained her grandfather's methods, unsure of how he would react. Jedediah listened intently, his eyes filled with a flicker of hope. He knew Clara had a knack for understanding the land, and he was willing to try anything to save his ranch. "Clara," he said, "it's worth a shot. Let's do it." Working tirelessly together, Clara and Jedediah implemented her grandfather's methods. They plowed deep furrows in the fields, creating channels to capture any available moisture. They used mulch to help retain water in the soil and carefully rationed what little water they had left. It was hard work, under the relentless sun, but they persevered, driven by the hope that their efforts would pay off. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, miraculously, the crops began to respond. The parched earth started to show signs of life, and the withered plants began to revive. The deep plowing had allowed the roots to reach deeper into the soil, tapping into hidden reserves of moisture. The mulch had helped to prevent evaporation, and the careful rationing had ensured that every drop of water was used wisely. Jedediah watched in amazement as Clara's knowledge and hard work saved his ranch from ruin. He realized that she was not only a kind and caring person but also a resourceful and intelligent woman with a deep understanding of the land. He was immensely grateful for her help, and his admiration for her grew with each passing day. The drought was far from over, but the Bar Diamond Ranch had been given a second chance, all thanks to Clara's ingenuity. The ranch was saved, and Jedediah was deeply appreciative. He realized how much he valued her presence in his life. As the ranch recovered, Clara began to reflect on her life. She realized that her feelings for Thomas had always been more of affection than true, deep love. She appreciated him as a person, but she couldn't deny that her heart didn't race when she saw him. The friendship they shared felt more like a comfortable routine than a passionate connection. In contrast, her feelings for Jedediah were undeniable. Every moment spent with him filled her with a joy she hadn't known existed. His smile made her heart flutter, and his touch sent shivers down her spine. She admired his kindness, his generosity, and his unwavering strength. She knew that she was falling deeply in love with him. This realization brought her immense guilt and confusion. She was a married woman, yet she found herself longing for another man. She tried to suppress her feelings, but they only grew stronger with each passing day. The thought of hurting Thomas weighed heavily on her heart, but she couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Her feelings for Jedediah were real, and they were changing everything. She knew she had to be honest with herself and with Thomas, even if it meant facing a difficult and painful conversation. She realized that her feelings for her husband are not as strong as she thought and understands she is falling in love with Jedediah. The truth was becoming unavoidable. One evening, Clara sat down with Thomas and gently explained her feelings. It was a difficult conversation, filled with tears and heartfelt apologies. She told him that she valued their friendship but realized that she couldn't continue living a lie. Thomas listened patiently, his face etched with sadness. He had noticed a change in Clara, a newfound spark that he hadn't been able to ignite himself. He confessed that he, too, had felt a distance between them, a sense that they were more like companions than lovers. After a long and honest discussion, they both agreed that they were not right for each other. They decided to separate amicably, promising to remain friends and support each other in the future. There were no accusations or bitter words, only a mutual understanding that their paths were leading them in different directions. The separation was painful, but it was also liberating. Clara felt a sense of relief knowing that she had been true to herself and to Thomas. She was free to pursue her own happiness, even if it meant taking a different path than she had originally planned. The conversation was difficult, but honest. Clara talks to her husband about her feelings. It's a difficult conversation, but they both agree that they are not right for each other. They separate amicably. It was a mature decision. With the weight of her secret finally lifted, Clara felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She continued to work at the Bar Diamond Ranch, helping her father and learning from Jedediah. Their friendship deepened, and the unspoken feelings between them grew stronger. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Jedediah turned to Clara, his eyes filled with a tenderness she had only dared to dream of. He took her hand in his touch sending a familiar shiver down her spine. "Clara," he began, his voice soft and sincere, "I know this might not be the right time, but I can't keep my feelings hidden any longer. I've come to care for you more than I ever thought possible. Your strength, your kindness, your spirit, they inspire me every day. I'm in love with you, Clara." Clara's heart skipped a beat. Tears welled up in her eyes as she listened to Jedediah's heartfelt confession. She had longed to hear those words for so long, and now they were finally being spoken. She reached out and gently caressed his cheek, her touch filled with love and gratitude. "Jedediah," she whispered, "I love you too. I've been fighting my feelings for so long, but I can't deny them any longer. You've brought so much joy and happiness into my life. I can't imagine my life without you." Jedediah confesses his love for Clara, and she admits she feels the same way. It was a moment of pure honesty. A few months later, Clara and Jedediah stood before their friends and family, exchanging vows in the very same barn that had sheltered Clara's first wedding. This time, however, the air was filled with genuine joy and unwavering love. The barn was even more beautifully decorated than before, adorned with wildflowers, twinkling lights, and handmade decorations crafted by Clara and Jedediah themselves. The atmosphere was warm and intimate, reflecting the deep connection they shared. Clara wore a simple but elegant dress, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Jedediah stood tall and proud, his heart overflowing with love for the woman standing beside him. As they exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of their lives, tears of joy streamed down their faces. Their families looked on with happiness, knowing that Clara and Jedediah had found their true soulmates in each other. Even Thomas, who attended the wedding as a friend, offered his heartfelt congratulations, genuinely happy for Clara's newfound happiness. The ceremony was beautiful and filled with love. Clara and Jedediah get married on the ranch, surrounded by their friends and family. It was a dream come true. Together, Clara and Jedediah built a life filled with love, laughter, and purpose on the Bar Diamond Ranch. They worked side by side, tending to the land, caring for the animals, and supporting their community. Clara's parents thrived on the ranch, her father becoming an invaluable asset to Jedediah's operation. They often opened their home to those in need, offering food, shelter, and a helping hand to anyone who crossed their path. Clara used her knowledge of farming to teach others how to conserve water and improve their crops, sharing the wisdom she had learned from her grandfather. Jedediah continued to be a pillar of strength in the community, always ready to lend his support to those less fortunate. They faced challenges along the way, but they always faced them together, their love for each other growing stronger with each passing year. They built a legacy of kindness and generosity, inspiring others to follow their example. Clara, once a struggling bride facing despair, had found strength in the arms of a generous rancher, and together, they created a life filled with love, happiness, and purpose. Their journey had been filled with hardship and heartbreak, but it had also been filled with hope and resilience. They had learned that true love can bloom in the most unexpected places and that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to find happiness and fulfillment. Clara and Jedediah worked together to build a happy life on the ranch, helping others in their community and finding true love and happiness. Years passed, and the Bar Diamond Ranch flourished under Clara and Jedediah's loving care. Their home became a haven, a place where laughter echoed through the halls and the aroma of freshly baked bread always filled the air. Children played in the fields, their joyous shouts adding to the symphony of life on the ranch. Clara and Jedediah taught their children the importance of hard work, honesty, and compassion. They instilled in them a deep respect for the land and a commitment to helping others. They shared stories of their own struggles and triumphs, teaching them that even in the darkest of times, hope and love can prevail. As they grew older, Clara and Jedediah looked back on their lives with gratitude and contentment. They had faced many challenges, but they had always faced them together, their love for each other serving as their guiding light. They had built a legacy of kindness and generosity, leaving the world a little bit brighter than they had found it. And so, the story of Clara, the struggling bride rescued from despair, and Jedediah, the generous rancher who offered her his heart and his home, became a legend in their community, a testament to the power of love, compassion, and the unwavering strength of the human spirit. They lived happily ever after, surrounded by family, friends, and the beauty of the land they loved. The end.